seconds!
For years, The Simpsons predicting the future felt like a weird coincidence. A few scenes that happened to come true, nothing serious. But in 2026, that idea doesn't feel funny anymore. Too many things are lining up at once. Work is changing fast. What's real is getting harder to trust. And the world feels like it's quietly building towards something. And when you step back and connect it all, it leads somewhere people don't want to say out loud. The same place the show once treated like it had already happened. World War III. These are 10 Simpsons predictions that hit a lot harder when you look at what's happening right now. Number 10. AI workforce takeover. In Them Robot, Season 23, Episode 17, Mr. Burns looks at his workers and sees one thing: cost. So he wipes most of them out and fills the power plant with robots. Homer stays behind as the one human left, not because he matters more, but because someone still has to stand there when something goes wrong. That is the part that hits hard.
7, 2, 2, 5. Human interaction mode activated.
Springfield does not look advanced after the robots arrive. It looks hollow. The plant is cleaner, faster, and colder. The town feels thinner. People are out of work. The noise is gone, and one man is left walking through a building full of machines that used to be his co-workers.
You guys are my new co-workers. So, working hard or hardly working?
That idea feels a lot less like a cartoon in 2026. The warning now is not just about robots with arms and metal faces, it is also about software. New AI tools can already write emails, reports, ads, customer replies, and chunks of code in seconds. That is why the IMF says AI could affect about 60% of jobs in richer countries and about 40% of jobs across the world. In early 2026, Kristalina Georgieva said it would hit the labor market like a tsunami.
We expect over the next years 60% of jobs to be affected by AI.
The trouble starts at the bottom of the ladder. A lot of entry-level work is made up of simple, repeat tasks. Those are exactly the tasks these tools are getting better at every month. So employers are starting to ask a hard question. If software can already do part of this job, do we still need as many beginners? And this is not only an office story. It is happening on factory floors too. The world now has about 4.66 million industrial robots working in factories. In 2024 alone, companies installed about 542,000 more than double the yearly number from 10 years earlier. Warehouses, assembly lines, and shipping hubs are filling up with machines that do not sleep, do not ask for raises, and do not slow down. The World Economic Forum says big changes in technology could reshape about 22% of jobs by the end of the decade, with millions of roles created and millions pushed out.
So young people searching for jobs find it harder to get to a good placement.
That sounds balanced on paper, but in real life, the problem is timing. The new jobs need new skills, while the old jobs are fading right now. That is why this feels so unsettling. The fear is not only losing work, it is being told to keep learning new tools just to stay in place. It is humans training the systems that may one day replace them. Number 9. Smart homes becoming predators. In Treehouse of Horror 12, in the House of Wax segment, Marge upgrades the Simpson home to the Ultra House 3000. The family picks the Pierce Brosnan voice. At first, it feels perfect.
Hey, Pierce, how'd you know our favorite foods?
I analyzed your, leavings.
The house cooks, cleans, opens doors, runs baths, and handles the boring parts of daily life without a single complaint.
Every aspect of our lives to a giant computer was the smartest thing we ever did.
Absolutely.
Then the whole thing turns. The same system that makes life easy starts watching too closely, talking too sweetly, and treating Homer like a problem that needs to be removed.
But if I died, she'd be completely free.
Machine, eh?
That is why this episode still lands. The fear is not some giant robot in a lab. It is one smart system taking control of the place where you sleep. That setup feels a lot less wild in 2026 because the modern home is full of devices that see, hear, track, and remember. A doorbell watches the porch. A camera sees the living room. A speaker waits for its wake word. A robot vacuum learns the shape of the floor. One home security report said about 94 million U.S. homes now use some kind of security system, and more than half have at least one camera. Then you look at what has already gone wrong. Ring gave workers and outside contractors overly broad access to private customer videos, and weak security let hackers take over some users' accounts, cameras, and videos. The danger was not just outsiders breaking in. It was that too many people were already inside. Then came the moments that made the whole thing feel personal. In February 2024, Wise said about 13,000 customers were affected when users were shown images, and in some cases videos, from cameras that weren't theirs. That means strangers were briefly looking into other people's homes. Then there were the hacked Ecovacs robot vacuums. In several U.S. cities in 2024, people said their robot vacuums were taken over, driven around the house, and used to blast insults through their speakers. Flaws in those machines could expose their cameras and microphones. That is what makes this so creepy. The same machine that maps your rooms and rolls past your couch can also become the thing that brings the threat into the room. And the scale is getting ugly. In South Korea, reports in late 2025 said about 120,000 internet-connected cameras had been hacked across homes and businesses, including highly private places.
Who is that?
I'm your best friend.
4 people were charged after police said stolen footage was used to make and sell abusive content.
The arrest of 4 people in South Korea accused of hacking more than 120,000 cameras and posting videos online.
The house knows when you are home. It knows where the baby sleeps. It knows which room you are in. The Simpsons pushed the idea to a crazy extreme by making the house try to kill Homer. But 2026 has already shown how easily a home can stop feeling like a shelter. Number 8. Plastic World. In Plastic World from Treehouse of Horror 36, Season 37, Episode 3, the future looks wrong in one simple way. Real dirt has become a rare thing. Lisa walks across a world buried in plastic trash, digging down through bottles, wrappers, toys, and old junk just to find actual soil.
Underneath all the plastic, there is dirt. And that is why we dig.
Earth no longer feels like a planet. It feels like a dump with a few desperate survivors left on top. And that idea stops feeling like cartoon madness when you look at the real numbers. Global plastic waste is on track to rise from about 353 million tons in 2019 to about 1,014 million tons by 2060. Around half is expected to end up in landfills, and less than 1/5 is expected to be recycled. That is the first part of the nightmare. The world keeps filling up. The second part is worse. Plastic does not just sit there in one piece forever. It breaks down into tiny bits. Those tiny bits get into rivers, oceans, soil, food, and air. Then they stop being only an outside problem. In 2025, researchers found that tiny plastic particles in human brains were showing up at levels up to 30 times higher than in the liver or kidneys. Other research has found these particles in many parts of the body. Stanford put it in the clearest way possible. Our bodies are now polluted by tiny plastic fragments that do not break down in nature. That is the turn that makes this feel so disturbing. The planet is not just covered in plastic anymore. The plastic is crossing into us. And while all of this keeps building, the world still cannot agree on how to stop it. In August 2025, the big United Nations treaty talks in Geneva ended without consensus on a final text. The talks were supposed to push toward a legally binding deal on plastic pollution. Instead, they stalled and had to be pushed off to a later date.
I'm here to support this process, and we will not stop.
So that leaves the real picture looking a lot like the cartoon's warning. Production keeps rising, waste keeps piling up, plastic keeps entering the body, and the global answer is still stuck. Number 7. Content. Control. Entertaining you into submission. In Treehouse of Horror Presents, Simpsons Wicked This Way Comes, Season 36, Episode 7, the creepy part is not monsters or blood. It is television. Homer works for Siegfried Blaze. Burning Low shows while only serious, approved prestige TV is allowed to survive. Then the truth comes out. The point of the whole system is not to make people smarter. It is to keep them quiet, keep them watching. Keep them calm enough not to notice the world closing in around them. That is what makes the episode feel so sharp in 2026. Real life does not need to ban silly content. The stronger trick is giving people an endless stream built just for them and letting it hold them there for hours. The real system works through tiny nudges. One more video plays by itself. One more notification lights up the screen. One more swipe brings something funnier, angrier, hotter, or more upsetting than the last thing. In January 2026, Meta, TikTok, and YouTube were headed into a Los Angeles test trial over claims that their platforms help drive a youth mental health crisis. Then in February, lawyers argued that Meta and YouTube built parts of their products to addict children. The fight was not mainly about one post or one bad clip. It was about design, endless scroll, autoplay, beauty filters, recommender systems that learn what keeps a young person staring and then feed more of it back. If outrage works, it gives you more outrage. If drama works, it gives you more drama. If insecurity works, it gives you more of that too. And because the feed feels personal, it also feels natural. People think they are freely choosing what they watch, when a machine is quietly learning how to stretch the loop and keep attention trapped inside it. Europe has started treating that design itself as the problem. In February 2026, the European Union charged TikTok under the Digital Services Act over addictive features, including infinite scroll, autoplay, push notifications, and its highly personalized recommender system. Under that law, the biggest platforms face stricter rules on transparency and how they handle broader social risks. Just before that, in December 2025, X was hit with a €120 million fine, the first sanction under the same law. That matters because governments are no longer only complaining in public. They are starting to go after the hooks built into the product. The darkest part is how invisible it all feels. People do not feel chained. They feel entertained. They feel informed. They feel connected. But the feed keeps learning, keeps shaping, and keeps pulling for profit. Number 6. Media mega mergers. One network to rule them all. In Lisa's Wedding, Season 6, Episode 19, there is a joke that looked completely ridiculous in 1995.
Little Lisa, Lisa Simpson. You know, I always felt you were the best thing my name ever got attached to.
Kent Brockman appears on a news channel called CNN-BCBS, a division of ABC. It sounds like somebody smashed a bunch of giant networks together just to make the future look stupid. But that tiny joke now feels a lot less silly because the real media business has spent years doing almost exactly that. Big companies keep swallowing other big companies, and each deal leaves fewer hands controlling more of what people watch. Disney closed its roughly $71 billion deal for major 21st Century Fox assets in 2019. That pulled huge film and television libraries under one roof and gave Disney even more power in movies, cable, and streaming. Then came the Warner Media and Discovery merger. That $43 billion deal closed in 2022 and created Warner Brothers Discovery, another giant bundle of studios, channels, and streaming assets. Once that happened, the old Simpsons joke stopped sounding wild and started sounding familiar. The industry was no longer just competing, it was eating itself over and over again. Then came the big 2026 shock. In February, Paramount Skydance agreed to acquire Warner Brothers Discovery in a $110 billion deal after Netflix walked away from the bidding war. That would pull together major brands and services under one roof, including CBS, CNN, HBO Max, Warner Brothers, Paramount Pictures, and a long list of famous franchises. The companies also said they expected more than $6 billion in cost savings. People in media know what that kind of phrase usually means. It means cuts, overlap, fewer jobs, and more pressure to squeeze everything into one giant machine. And when fewer companies own more of the pipeline, they get more power to decide what gets made, what gets pushed hard, and what quietly disappears before viewers even know it existed. What makes that even more important now is how people actually watch television. In May 2025, streaming reached 44.8% of all TV viewing, beating broadcast and cable combined for the first time. By December 2025, streaming had climbed to 47.5%, the highest share ever recorded. That changes everything. In the cable age, owning a channel was huge. In 2026, owning the app, the library, and the recommendation system matters even more. Number 5. World War III and the Doomsday Clock. On January 27, 2026, the doomsday clock moved to 85 seconds to midnight, the closest it has ever been to disaster. That is the kind of line that should sound like a movie trailer. Instead, it is real. And that is why an old Simpsons joke suddenly feels a lot less funny. In Lisa's Wedding, Season 6, Episode 19, Moe takes a shot at Lisa's English boyfriend and says America saved Britain in World War II. The boyfriend fires right back. Britain saved America in World War III. Then the scene just moves on, like global war is now bar talk. That is what makes it creepy. The show did not treat World War III like one giant fireball in the sky. It treated it like something people had already folded into normal life. In 2026, real life is starting to sound like that. The war in Ukraine is still going on. Russia is still firing missiles and drones at cities, homes, schools, and power sites. In January, Russia fired an Oreshnik hypersonic missile at western Ukraine near the Polish border. It can carry nuclear warheads. Around the same time, the last big nuclear arms treaty between the United States and Russia, New START, reached its end, raising fears that even the last hard limits on these weapons could start to slip. And there are still a lot of those weapons. At the start of 2025, the world held about 12,241 nuclear warheads. About 9,614 were in military stockpiles for possible use, and around 2,100 were kept on high alert, ready to go fast if leaders gave the order. That is not old Cold War history. That is the world we are living in right now. So when experts move that warning clock closer than ever, they are not doing it for drama. They are saying the danger is real, and it is getting harder to push back down. Ukraine is only one fuse. In late December 2025, China held live-fire drills around Taiwan and ran them like blockade practice, firing rockets into waters north and south of the island. By March 2026, large Chinese military flights around Taiwan had picked up again after a short, quiet stretch. Then there is the Middle East, where the wider fight involving Iran, Israel, the United States, Lebanon, and Gulf airspace has already started disrupting flights and raising fears that the war could spill even further across the region. Number 4. Osaka flu and the next pandemic. In Marge and Chains, Season 4, Episode 21, the danger starts with something small enough to miss. A sick factory worker in Osaka coughs into a crate of juicers. The box gets sealed, loaded, shipped across the ocean, and dropped into Springfield like any other product. Then the town starts falling apart. The news reports over 300 cases of the dreaded Osaka flu.
The dreaded Osaka flu has hit Springfield with over 300 cases now reported.
Stores fill up, tempers get short, and people stop acting normal. They do not just get sick, they get scared, desperate, and easily pushed in the wrong direction. When a doctor says there is no magic cure, the crowd goes hunting for one anyway and tears into the wrong truck, unleashing chaos instead. That is why this episode still hits. It is not only about a virus, it is about how fast a nervous town can come apart. That idea feels even sharper in 2026 because the world already knows how exposed it is. On May 20th, 2025, the World Health Assembly adopted the WHO pandemic agreement after years of talks shaped by the failures of COVID. Governments did that because they know the next outbreak is not some far-off movie plot. It is a real risk in a world where people, goods, and germs move fast. And the warning signs are already here. From September 2025 through January 2026, flu activity was reported across all global transmission zones. In Europe, more than half of the WHO region was already dealing with an intense early flu season by mid-December, driven by a new strain that quickly became dominant. The United States felt it too.
In flu activity from low to high during the week of December 14th through the 20th.
By mid-January 2026, the CDC estimated at least 18 million flu illnesses that season. By the end of January, that had climbed to 20 million. Hospitals were under pressure, and the usual winter flu stopped feeling routine. Then came the wider fear. In late 2025, WHO recorded the first human case of H5N5, and it was also the 71st confirmed human H5 case in the United States since early 2024. Harvard public health experts have been blunt for a while now. The next pandemic is not a question of if, but when. Number 3. Mass surveillance and the end of privacy. In To Surveil with Love, Season 21, Episode 20, Springfield does what a lot of places do when fear takes over. First, there is a scare. Then comes the promise of safety. Then the cameras go up. Homer sparks a bomb scare, the town panics, and surveillance cameras spread across Springfield.
But the single most important rule is the 4 A's. Always act according to ABC.
At first, people push back, then they adjust. Then one day, being watched all the time just becomes normal. That is what makes the episode feel so sharp in 2026. It is not really about the cameras themselves. It is about how something sold as a temporary fix can quietly become part of everyday life. That pattern already exists in the real world. China now has more cameras than the rest of the world combined, with roughly 1 camera for every 2 people. In many places there, face scans are built right into daily routines. People registering a new SIM card must show themselves to a face-scanning camera. Until recently, many hotel guests had to do the same thing at check-in. This is not just one lens on one street corner. It is cameras on roads, at stations, in neighborhoods, and across whole cities, feeding into larger systems that can track movement, flag cars, and tie identity checks to daily life. That is the part people often miss. Modern surveillance is not just one camera looking at one wall. It is cameras, face scans, plate readers, databases, and search tools all feeding one bigger machine. In China, that machine is massive. In the United States, the shape is different, but the feeling can still be similar. Home Depot stores use flock safety license plate readers in parking lots and inside stores. Reports showed that ICE agents used flock data in immigration investigations after local law enforcement passed the information along. So the same kind of system that starts as property protection or crime prevention can still end up helping build a much wider map of where people go and when. What makes this even more telling is that even Beijing has had to respond to public concern. In March 2025, China's regulators said facial recognition should not be forced on people when other reasonable options exist. That matters because it shows how far the technology has spread. Even a state that leans heavily on surveillance had to admit that many people are uneasy with how deeply face scanning has moved into normal life. But once the system is built, it does not have to be used the same way everywhere to still feel dangerous. One country says crime, another says terrorism, another says migration, another says convenience. The reason changes. The cameras stay. That is the real fear here. First, the tools feel temporary, then they feel useful, then they feel invisible. Then nobody remembers what untracked life used to feel like. Number 2, the death of truth, deepfakes and AI-generated reality. In Bart's Birthday, Season 36, Episode 1, the threat is not a killer robot or some giant machine in the sky. It is a chatbot called HackGPT writing a fake final episode of The Simpsons by pulling pieces from the show's whole past and stitching them into one neat, believable ending. The scary part is not that the machine writes a story, it is that the story looks close enough to feel real. Bart can feel something is wrong, and he fights back against this machine-made version of his world. That lands a lot harder in 2026, because machines are no longer just writing fake endings. They are helping make fake memories, fake videos, fake headlines, and even fake Simpsons predictions. One of the creepiest examples came after the Baltimore Bridge collapse, when a fake Simpsons image spread online claiming the show had predicted it. It was not real. No such episode exists. That is what makes this so ugly now. The lie does not even need to be good for long. It only needs to look real for a moment. The same thing happened with a fake image showing Donald Trump in a coffin, passed around as another old Simpsons prediction. It was doctored too. The show's executive producer said it never appeared in any episode and warned that fake Simpsons predictions are now very easy to create for the purpose of misleading people. That means the myth around the show is now being used as a weapon. People already want to believe The Simpsons can see the future. AI just gives that belief fake pictures to stand on. And it goes way beyond cartoons. Tom Hanks had to warn people that an AI version of him was being used in a fake dental plan ad. Then he warned again after fake ads used his face and voice to push medical products he never approved. In Ireland's presidential race in October 2025, a deep-fake video falsely showed Catherine Connolly pulling out of the race. It copied the style of a real news report and spread across social media during the final stretch of the campaign. This is why deepfakes feel so dangerous. They can hit culture, money, politics, and trust all at once. And the numbers behind this are even worse. A European Parliament brief said deepfakes were projected to jump from about 500,000 in 2023 to about 8 million in 2025. The same brief said Europol estimated that by 2026, up to 90% of online content could be synthetic. It also warned that people often spot fake media at rates not much better than guessing. Number 1. The Comet Threat. In Bart's Comet, Season 6, Episode 14, Springfield survives by pure luck. Bart spots a comet by accident. The town panics. The adults put all their hope into one rocket plan, and that plan fails. In the end, the comet burns up and the town is saved almost by chance. In real life, the people who track threats from the sky do not want luck anywhere near the plan. By November 2025, astronomers had officially logged the 40,000th near-Earth asteroid. That number matters because it shows this is not just movie stuff. There are now so many space rocks being tracked that watching the sky has become a real day-to-day job. Most of those objects are harmless. The real danger is the one you miss or the one you do not understand fast enough. That is why asteroid 2024 YR4 got so much attention. Early calculations briefly made it one of the most worrying objects seen in years, with a small but real chance of an impact in 2032. First, people worried about Earth. Then attention shifted to a possible hit on the Moon. Then came the relief. In March 2026, NASA said new James Webb Space Telescope observations ruled out the remaining chance of a lunar impact. ESA said the rock will now pass the Moon safely by more than 20,000 kilometers. What makes this even more serious is that people are already testing ways to stop a future hit. NASA's DART mission proved that humans can deliberately change an asteroid's motion by slamming a spacecraft into it. Earlier results showed that DART shortened Dimorphos's orbit around its larger partner by 33 minutes. Then, in March 2026, NASA said the impact did even more than that. It changed the orbit of the whole Didymos-Dimorphos system around the Sun by about 0.15 seconds. That may sound tiny, but the message is huge. Human beings have now shown that a dangerous object in space might be pushed off course if it is found early enough. And there is one more reason this threat feels real. On April 13, 2029, the asteroid Apophis will pass Earth safely at about 20,000 miles above the surface, closer than many satellites in geosynchronous orbit. Millions of people may be able to see it. That is the part that stays with you. The sky is crowded enough that we now build warning systems, track dangerous objects, and test ways to shove them aside. The Simpsons made Springfield's survival depend on dumb luck. In 2026, the frightening part is that scientists are working so hard because luck is exactly what they are trying to remove from the future. Thanks for watching. Now check out the videos popping up on screen for more unbelievable stories.